So we have some friends who are nice enough to let us stay at their cabin, which is pretty much out in the middle of nowhere. And it kind of is like feeling like living off the grid for a couple of days. The place does have electricity, but we actually lost electricity for a few hours today, so we really did feel like we were off the grid. But anyway, we're near the Quabbin Reservoir, which you can see right here. We're at one of the gates. And it's kind of a fun place to explore. And I did want to share something. It's sort of like a little bit of urban exploration, except that it's not really going to a currently standing structure. We're looking at the past. For anyone not too familiar with the Quabbin Reservoir, I think I'll just talk a little bit about it while we check out some of these great New England stone walls. Hopefully you can hear me. The Quabbin Reservoir was built back in the 30s, basically between, I think, 1930 and 1939. And it was at a time when Boston was a growing city, as it still is, and they realized that there wasn't enough drinking water. So they devised this plan to get water from way out here, out in the central Massachusetts. And to do that, they had to actually disincorporate 4 towns. Or in other words, basically, they had to take 4 towns that were out here and wipe them off the map. And they displaced everybody, and they tore down some of the buildings. Some of the buildings were moved. They got rid of as many trees as they could. They cleared it all out. And then they started letting water in, and they created this huge reservoir. So underneath it, there's still some remnants of those 4 towns, and you kind of find it just a fascinating story in general. The towns were Dana, Enfield, Greenwich, and Prescott. And we are currently in New Salem. And I believe, I'm not really an expert on this stuff, but I believe that the area that we are currently walking, this is the fire road leading in towards the reservoir. I believe this is was part of Prescott, and now it's part of the reservoir, and it's also, I guess, part of New Salem now. But my wife and I came in earlier today and walked all the way down to the reservoir. It's about an hour walk. We walked for about an hour, going pretty slow, and we stopped to look at some stuff. There's a lot of interesting stuff out here. But we figure it's very roughly somewhere between a half mile and a mile. So we're not even, we just went by the gate. You know, we were actually pretty close to the gate and quite far from the reservoir. But there are signs out here of where people were living. Obviously, we've been following this stone wall, and that's one of the cool things about New England is there's stone walls everywhere, crisscrossing and like making a grid through the woods. It all seems kind of random, but it was people a long time ago, hundreds of years ago, marking their land. That was the boundaries. It was these stone walls that would just run through everywhere, and then people would build them. And they're still here, and it's really kind of cool. This one runs along the road here. And a few years ago we were out here, and we found a couple cool old cellar holes, and I'm trying to re-find those now. I'm hoping I can, so that I can have something interesting to show you in this video. But there's 2 in particular that I wanted to do a little exploring in. So let me see if I can find those, and then hopefully I'll be back with that. Sorry for the shakiness. I'm obviously just holding the camera as I walk along. But here's something kind of interesting. This morning when we came through here, on our way to the reservoir, this tree was blocking the road. You can see where it came down. Came down off of here and came down. It was basically going right across the road, and they've already come around, and they haven't cleaned it up, but they did move it out of the way. The DCR come through with their trucks regularly. So it's good to know that it's all being taken care of. And I believe that the first cellar hole I want to look at is actually up this hill. Let me just see if that's right. Following yet another of these walls. And if my memory serves, it is right up here. You can see here that, oh, actually this is pretty interesting. So the wall goes around, and you can see it has these nice right angles. And this one over here has an entryway. It looks like there had been some sort of a stairway here of some sort. And so these places, yeah, here it is right here. I'm not exactly sure if these were homes that were bought out by the government for the making of the reservoir, or if they're just places that were abandoned organically, and it just something that happened because we are pretty far away from the water. I mean, obviously we're in the protected area, so it would make sense that it could have been part of the reservoir, and these things have been abandoned for a while. You can see it has a pretty well-defined cellar hole right here. It's actually a nice very straight walls in there of the stone walls. And the reason I found this one really fascinating is because it's full of trash, as you can see. Actually, last time we were here, there was more of it. It almost looks like somebody cleaned it out since then. But let me just jump in here. What was cool about it is that even though it's full of trash, and there was some pretty new stuff, most of it was really old. I don't know what this is here. What is that? Out of a stove or something? I'm not exactly sure, but kind of interesting. And then you get, like, yeah, look at these old cans here. See, it's one thing that I think people dump stuff in here and you're like, oh, it's just trash, but this is some kind of a beer. I don't know if that's Budweiser, but you can see that this is a very old one, and in fact it even predates the pull tabs. And this is one we actually had to puncture the can to get into it. Oh, now I see, this is Rheingold. Rheingold Extra Dry. And it's I guess I didn't recognize because it's upside down. It's actually punctured on the bottom of the can. The bottom became the top. So that's pretty cool. I mean, this has been here for a long time. And there's another one here. And some remnants of some more. These old metal buckets. These are from a long time ago. This must be, I'm guessing, for collecting sap. There's a bunch of them in here, so somebody must have been doing that at one time. And some bigger ones. Not really much new in here. It all seems to be pretty old stuff. Some old tires. Actually, his oh my god, this is actually really cool. This is a Narragansett can. I wish it wasn't. I can't believe this is in really great shape on this side. Narragansett has, for the past few years, been making a throwback design on their cans, and they've actually used this design. This is the design that was used around 1975 when they filmed Jaws. And you can see one of these in Jaws when Quint on the boat, when he crushes this can of beer. It's an Narragansett can. So they reintroduced those as a throwback. But this one, it doesn't have the throwback thing on it. This is actually real. And look, it even has the pull tab on the top, or where the pull tab was. So that is really cool. I thought it was just a random new can of Narragansett. There's a lot of broken glass. You gotta be careful in here. This looks like a kind of an old bottle. Nothing too spectacular, but sort of on the old side. I see another can in here, another pull tab can. I wonder if I can. Oh, it's another Narragansett. That's pretty cool. I'm shocked that they're in such good shape, but I wish they were in even better shape to make them worth taking home. That's really neat, and it shows how not too many people are coming here. This isn't exactly like a tourist spot, but let's take one last look here at the walls from inside. And let's see too much more images, and I do want to check out one other place. Oh, that's right. Look at these roots coming out. For a second, I thought these were bones. It almost looked like leg bones, but it's just roots coming out through the stones. Yeah, it's been a nice little cellar here. So anyway, that's stop number one, and I just thought it was a really cool place that obviously not too many people are going to. It's kind of like, it's out in the middle of nowhere, really. It's just out in the woods, and I find the trash in there really interesting. There seems to be less of it. It looks like somebody, I'm thinking it looks like somebody maybe cleaned up some of it, but it's almost like they cleaned out the new stuff and left the old stuff. Maybe it's just covered in leaves, because there's been a few seasons since we've been here, and some of the stuff might have been covered up, but it was really cool finding those Narragansett cans, and just some of the random stuff. I'm sure if we dug around, we'd find more interesting stuff. But I don't want to make this too long of a video, so let's try and find our other target area. Actually, just walking out of there, and I found something else kind of interesting. First is this weird shaped tree with these funny little mushrooms. And then down at the base of it, so something metal. It's an old lawnmower. Things you just kind of push along. It's missing the handle and everything, but it's an old lawnmower sitting there, just rusting away. Obviously nobody's mowing out here or anything. And that's right at the corner of that property. Here's one more look at that tree that fell down, or part of it fell down, and I just realized that what's remaining there is some pretty interesting I don't know if you can see it, but some pretty interesting mushrooms growing on it. Yeah, it's pretty hard to see that. I'll try and put up a few pictures, see if I can get some photos that come out a little bit better. But we're going to head back along the road and see if I can find that other spot. Alright, I think we're getting close. We're at the beginning of this stone wall here. I don't know how well you can see, but way out in the distance there is a big semi-dead looking tree. And I think that was the landmark that I was using to try to remember where this place was. So let me head over there and see if I can get my bearings. Yeah, there's the tree right there. Yeah, that's definitely the tree. It's pretty, stands out pretty well in this area. I mean, we're in the woods, but it's kind of clear. There's a lot of smaller trees, nothing, anything like this one. And we can see the old property lines. It's interesting, if it weren't for these stone walls, you really have no idea where anything started, where anything ended. I mean, you don't know whose properties these were, but I don't know if you can see, there's a wall leading right down here, and it comes to a corner, and it comes right along here. It leads right past that big tree. It must have been, you know, on somebody's property way back then. I forgot to point out on the way down here that there was a lot of interesting, really large, kind of dead-looking trees right along the road, and they must have been shade trees at one time. But that wall ends right there. There's another giant dead branch from that tree that fell down years ago. And the walls continue over here, and I know we're in the right area, I'm just not exactly sure where it is. There's another wall over there, and it stretches off that way, and it comes down this way. There's a corner over here, and then it comes across over here, and it comes down here, and it's either it's just kind of fading away, or maybe people have used the stones for something else, for other walls somewhere else or something. But this is an interesting one right here. And I remember this corner was an interesting one. It's got some stuff. It has another old bucket here. Actually not in really horrible shape considering how old it is. And then there's some more metal on the other side here. It's all coming back to me now. It looks like, I think these are rings from an old barrel. The wood's long gone, but the rings are still here. And follow this one. I know we're close, but I'm not exactly sure where it is. And these lead down. We're not going to go over there, but there's a stone wall along there. And it's like a grid, you know. These are all pretty square. Comes right along here. Some are really well marked, some are in really great shape. Some of them are falling apart, some are almost gone. There's an opening here. So obviously this must have been a cart road or something, and it would come right in here, and you can see actually there's the wall over there, so there's one here and one there, so that almost looks like it was a little road. Let's go up on top of this one, because I know we're getting close. And some of these walls are made of different kinds of stones. These are sort of like flat ones. Some of them, it seems like they really try to use one specific kind of stone. And they all have their own personality, really. It's kind of neat. Okay, I have to get my bearings again. So I know we're close, but I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, this is it. This is that stone wall I just climbed off of and came down around here. I didn't realize how close this was to where the wall is. The wall just ends here. And it's pretty straight ending. It was obviously meant to be the end of the wall. And I don't know how well you can see. It doesn't look like there's much here. There's a taller stone wall back there, and there's that low one that we were just walking along, or walking next to, and it came up here and down here. So if you can see it through the trees, there's that big tree I was talking about. And I actually had no idea how close this was. I don't know if you can see. You kind of can. This used to be more covered with leaves, and it was actually, you kind of had to stumble on it. It's neat, and it's also kind of scary because, as you can see, there's a little pile of stones right in front of me. No stone walls around it, so it's not part of a stone wall. But this is what we came to see. This is the highlight of the tour. And let me just throw the camera on a tripod so I can show you what this is. Alright, just to give you a little sense of direction, I don't know how you can see it, but right above this green area is this stone wall that we were walking along. I can probably zoom in on that. Yeah, I think you can see that through the trees, right? It was a stone wall we came in on that the fire road, or the access road. So this is as far away as we are. It's not that far. I mean, you could see this from there if it wasn't so kind of camouflaged. And there's the big tree behind this one. And here's this little nondescript kind of pile of rocks. And you can see there was a little hole here. If you take this stone off, you can see that it's kind of black in there. And what it is, it's an old well that's still just sitting here full of water, looking like a well. Just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And this was where somebody had gotten their water at one time. And now it's just an abandoned, forgotten about little piece of history here. So, as I say, it's pretty neat, and in a way it's kind of scary because if this was just a little bit less covered and hidden, you could easily fall into that. And I think that's pretty deep. We've been getting a lot of rain this year, but I know you could see a lot further down there before. Last time we were out here a couple years ago. So if you were to just walk along and fall into that, that wouldn't be a good thing. But as you can see, it's kind of nondescript. There's really not too much to indicate that it's there. But if you find yourself out in the Quabbin and you're walking along and you find an old gnarled tree that looks like this, you're actually pretty close to what I think is pretty cool. I hope other people think this is cool too, but that was the point of this video. Check out a cellar hole and check out somebody's old homestead. This must have been farmers or something out here. I don't know exactly where the house was. It seems like probably down in that corner somewhere. And this was their well. So, thank you for joining me on this little different kind of thing for me, this little adventure. And thank you for watching. There's all kinds of neat stuff to see out here. For instance, this spot here, where you can see the water and you can see one of the hills in the distance. That's now an island. You're walking down here along this path, you could very easily walk right by this little area here and not even notice that it's an old pile of cut wood. That's now just completely rotten, covered with moss, covered with pine needles, and it even has its own trees growing out of it. But it makes you wonder, when was this put here and left here and forgotten about? And I can't help but wonder, I mean, this could have been from, you know, one of the hurricanes in the 50s where they came in and cleared out, or it could have been more recent than that. But I'm almost wondering if this was part of the deforestation of the area before they started filling the reservoir. And they just piled these logs up to be removed with all the other ones, and nobody ever got around to it, and they just got left here and forgotten about. It certainly is a possibility. But just one of the many interesting things you can spot around here.